You messed that up, Ben.
Listen.
If you know,
don't record.
When you walk away, they can't hear. Is that true, Ben?
It's true.
What we're going to do, you're going to record. I'm going to walk towards the building.
And why is that true, Ben?
Start talking, ready?
Because microphones aren't magically hearing everything
then,
Chris,
miles away.
Listen to me.
Only just what's in front
this
of
is what we're doing. I'm a director, do you understand?
No, you're the actor.
Right, listen. Come here.
You're going to tell.
You're going to record the graves, right?
Yeah, yes.
This is the video.
Yes.
Watch.
Yes.
You're going to come back round on yourself like this.
This is my video.
I know.
You understand?
I'm better than you that have this, right?
Yeah.
I want you to film the graves, look, and slowly walk round, capture the surroundings, look. And I'm going to be standing there, and I'm going to walk slowly towards the camera, and I'm going to start telling the story. And then as I say the scaffolding, you're then going to peer across like that. And then when I say the grave over there, then you can go bang, and then I'll continue. Does that make sense?
I think that's how it's going to go, yeah. Let's see.
Ben, have I got a point? Yes or no?
Kind of. Why don't you just be
Yeah,
like,
I have.
Why
right, start again.
Why
Ready?
Don't you just walk up to it and be...
Now approaching Passenham, and about 10 years ago, I was walking down here with my dad, and it was really bad snow. The last proper snowfall we had actually in Milton Keynes. And this road was absolutely wiped out with just up white, you couldn't see anything. And normally they wouldn't let anyone down here with snow because they don't tend to keep this road clear. So obviously when the residents get that sort of weather, they have to like just stay in and go on foot because this is one of the roads that they won't go to. So Passenham is an actual country lane. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 houses at the very max officially that live in Passenham. Watch out, there's a car. But this is a throughway for traffic coming from Stoney, Beachhampton Way or Milton Keynes going through the back roads. And then obviously you'll get a lot of traffic coming. When there's traffic on the A5 near the Dean's Hangar, a lot of people use this as a cut through. And as you'll see in about 5 minutes, the lanes get narrower. They've never ever had permission to expand this country lane because obviously it's a rural area. But there's a bridge where you can only get 1 car across at most. But in a sec I'll show you that the bridge is prone to flooding, and the floodwater will come above the bridge. And there's an old orchard as well, which we'll see in a moment. All these houses really date back to about, I think, 1700s. I believe 1700s roughly. And there's been a massive load of famous people that lived here through legend. Yeah, you'll see this first one, which is 2 houses, the next one, which is 1, and then when we eventually walk up to it, you'll see the manor house, the famous Passenham Manor, which was home to a very famous individual who perished here actually about, I don't know, about 100 years ago. And his ghost is said to like haunt these areas along with another. So in a minute we'll get to that. Now getting a bit further into Passenham, we're approaching the big manor house. Huge building, and that was historically home to Bobby Banister, which is probably the most famous
Banister, yeah.
Banister, which is probably the most famous ghost of Passenham. I'm not too sure on the backstory. There's been a lot of rumours, and I think there was something about either him being burned, people smelling smoke and flames when his ghost appeared. But yeah, he apparently haunts this area. In a second we're going to be coming up to the famous manor. Beautiful building, but it's actually situated right next to St Guthlac's Church, which is another very haunted and eerie place. So Passenham, as small as it is actually quite scary, especially at night. But as you'll see in a moment, we're coming up to an old barn now. Look at this barn, the coach house. This barn's very old, and as you can see, it's privately owned, but if you look through, you'll see how narrow and small the windows are, you know, which just indicates how small things were back then, like the windows itself. They could have been used for arrows for all we know. But yeah, it's a beautiful building, but that itself probably about 400 or 500 years old. We are now outside Passenham Manor, very famous because, as beautiful as it is, it's been very tainted in the past by very dark historic figures. One of them being Bobby Banister, who apparently situated here almost 100 years ago, and he met a very grisly demise, and apparently he is one of the ghosts that are visible in Passenham. And people have said that there's various methods of which he might have been killed, one of them being burning, one of them being beheading, one of them being tortured, one of them being poisoned. We don't know that for a fact, we can only go on history, but apparently the people that have seen his ghost in the past have smelt burning flesh, burnt hair, or they've seen him walking through the fields at night with a horse with his head gone off his shoulders. This obviously is down for debate, but as you'll walk back towards this building, you'll just have to situate in your own mind what happened here all those years ago. And as you can see, there's somebody outside at the moment, probably the owner. But what a beautiful ancient building it really is. Now here we are at St. Black Church in Passenham. This is the 13th, 14th century church, yeah? Very old, as you'll see by the graves.
Old.
Now, I was told a ghost story years and years ago.
Trees.
By my dad, right? Now the story was
Trees.
there was building work going on here, not massively,
Bunting.
but
Haunted bunting.
scaffolding along the sides, right?
The ghost of Sir Robert Banastre, often referred to as Wicked Bobby Banister, is one of Passenham's most enduring and infamous supernatural residents. His legend is deeply intertwined with Passenham Manor, which he held and rebuilt in the early 17th century. Sir Robert Banastre was a real historical figure. He acquired the manor of Passenham in 1623 and was responsible for significant repairs or rebuilding of Passenham Manor around 1626. He was a rising star in the court of James I and Charles I, serving as comptroller to James I and later clerk victualler to Charles I, responsible for the provisioning of the royal court. He also held a position on the court of the Green Cloth and was involved in collecting ship money. He accumulated considerable wealth and lands, reflecting his growing status. He died on December 15th, 1649 at the age of 80 and was buried in Passenham, where his coat of arms can be seen on his tomb and the church exterior. Despite his apparent worldly success, Sir Robert Banastre's legacy in Passenham is that of a restless spirit, tormented by an unknown sin or a violent end. The moniker Wicked Bobby Banister suggests a reputation for harshness or cruelty during his lifetime, though the specific details of his wickedness are often lost to time and overshadowed by the ghost story itself. The most common version of the tale states that Sir Robert Banastre met a violent end while hunting. He is said to have broken his neck in the hunting field, and his mangled body was dragged home by his horse. This sudden and brutal death is often cited as the reason for his restless spirit. Ever since his demise, the ghost of Sir Robert Banastre has been a regular feature of dark and stormy nights in Passenham. His most famous manifestation involves a coach and pair, which he drives furiously through the village. The sound of hooves and carriage wheels clattering in the dead of night, accompanied by the spectral form of Sir Robert, is a terrifying sight for those who witness it. Local folklore even suggests that the threat of Wicked Bobby Banistre's appearance was used to frighten refractory children into good behaviour. Beyond the coach, he is also said to sometimes gallop on his faithful mare. Sometimes his apparition is seen riding his horse alone on a frantic midnight gallop. His spectral carriage is reported to drive right up to the doors of Passenham Manor, perhaps indicating a lingering attachment to his former home. Accounts of his appearance often include descriptions of him being ghastly pale. Furthermore, his presence sometimes accompanied by the distinct and unsettling smell of brimstone and smoke, a classic signifier of a demonic or infernal association in folklore, further emphasising the idea of his wickedness and possibly his ultimate fate. The legend of Sir Robert Banastre is a powerful example of how historical figures can become woven into the fabric of local ghost stories. His reputation as a wicked man combined with a violent death created the perfect conditions for a haunting tale. The visual and sensory details of his Cogent horse and the accompanying smell of brimstone paint a vivid and frightening picture that has been passed down through generations in Passenham, making him one of the village's most famous and chilling supernatural residents.
So it was here years ago that my dad told me a story about this church, St Guthlax in Passenham, 13th, 14th century old church. There was work going on along this building, some sort of building work towards the stone repair. There's scaffolding from about there to there. One of his friends that he worked with in Fenny Lock in Tesco's was the one who said that he was here that day. This guy never believed in ghosts, never believed in aliens, very big, conspiracy, not into all that stuff. Anyway, he said one day he was there, it was a spring afternoon, and he just turned around, and then as he looks over towards this big grave over here, he saw a figure standing there, motionless. This man obviously then got a big fright, and he decided to jump off the scaffold and run out over there into his van and sped off. And he's never once stated what exactly he saw, but whatever it was scared him enough to make him do that. So this is part of the reason why we're here today, to tell the story about the so-called ghosts and ghouls of Passenham, St Guthlax and the village itself, which obviously are history and myth, but they are there to be desired.
This is where she's jumped in. This is where she jumped in as a kid.
This all used to be a windmill here.
You mean a watermill?
Yeah, that's it, watermill.
Yeah, a watermill. Get it right.
So why did she do that? You got to have more backstory.
I don't know. I weren't there. It was fucking 100 years ago.
These are the facts you heard of here first. Why did she jump in? I don't know. I wasn't there.
Well, was you around in 1912?
No, but I'm not the one. I'm not the one claiming to know a story.
Yeah, because I read. You don't.
So what did you read? Why?
I think it's true, but it needs to be nicer to me.
Okay. So if you look here.
If you look here,
Now
you'll
that
see a
looks
bad
like-
attitude.
If
That's
you
what
look
he's been
here-
for the last 20 minutes.
That looks like.
If you look here,
a telegraph pole, right? It's actually not. So in the 1600s, when this electricity was installed, saw a horrible figure down here. If you look down here, you'll see it.
What we've got
And
at the
jumps
minute
from the
is
top of there.
how did he look when he...
typically self-explanatory.
Look like this is wearing a Guns N' Roses vest.
No, Chris, look. We've got a typically grazing area where people just sit there and graze for hours on end. And then back here we've got the road that was built originally by the Romans.